How you doing, everybody? This is Rock, your divorce strategist. This is going to be a longer video on prenups. I put a short video, they call them shorts, YouTube shorts, pertaining to this. So I have a few minutes on that, but then I'm kind of coming back to this because this prenup draft is close to 30 pages. Okay, so I'm into the first couple of them. That's how long it is. And don't forget, when you start talking about a prenup, there's a few rules that you should be aware of. And I was exposed to this in a prenup in 2001. I was thinking about getting engaged to a woman that it was both our marriages, our second marriages. She had a child. I had 3 adult children at the time. There was a 11-year difference. And what else can I say? I was basically semi-retired, and she was still working. And she, we don't have to get into all that, but I got the prenup drafted by a big-time firm, and it was between $10,000 and $15,000. And now when I look at all this, that's an overkill. But it was in the state of Minnesota, and I just wanted to protect myself. So this video is more or less to be shared with people that are considering a prenup. I have a friend in California looking at getting married for the second time, and their prenup drafts are approximately $50,000 in California. And one thing that most people don't realize that you have to get separate attorneys, and you have to pay your own attorney fees as part of the requirements to have a valid, enforceable prenup. And that's why so many people walk away from them, because there's a tremendous cost to these things. It's prepaid. So before you say I do your homework, okay, and understand that. And so going back to my situation, I was in the state of Minnesota, and I believe I asked her prior to get engaged and let's get married, and we did talk about a prenup. And so I started the process. So I hired an attorney, got it going, got the draft back in December, and everybody stalls on it because you have to gather your assets, you have to gather, contact information and so on. So I want to go back to, if you look at the first short, the overview was a few pages, and the first cover page was what was kind of interesting. Was the first bullet was, we're going to talk about death first on a prenup. However, on the cover letter, the second bullet was divorce. Okay? And so, but as soon as you turn over that cover letter, which is a couple pages by the attorney, okay, it was divorce was number 1. And so I left it where, here's the situation, here's what's happening, and we're talking boilerplate. This is boilerplate shit. You know what I mean? Alimony's talked about, spousal maintenance, how you're going to split it up, and I'm kind of going over it here. Bear with me. Share of marital and non-marital property, alimony or spousal maintenance, attorney fees, occupancy of homestead. This is all under divorce. Other relief, changes in the laws of other states, just in case you move out, and there's no way to escape your jurisdiction. Believe me, okay? The meaning, yeah, they have a glossary in the law. The divorce laws of Minnesota have been amended, blah, 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 to no fault. Meaning of divorce. And you know what that means. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why you decided to divorce. There could be abuse, there could be infidelity, there could be fraud. Doesn't matter. Then we go into death. And there's a payout, elective share. Less than 1 year, 2 years, 3%. 9 years, 27% of the estate. This is upon death. Over 15 years, 50%. Second marriages, what do you think the kids are going to think or want? Or do you care? Doesn't matter. I do. I want to protect my kids on my second marriage. And I built my wealth between my first divorce and 22 years of being single. Yep. Probate discussion. I mean, this goes on and on. It's kind of boring. It's all boilerplate bullshit. But you know what? You got to listen to it. But it's intimidating. It's intimidating because, you're in love. You're in love. But expect litigation through divorce or through death. Either way, there's no escaping, like my father would say. You can't escape life. Okay? Miscellaneous, which is very important. It's called joiner. Joiner. That's very important. I learned over the years that in business, they call that a corporate shield. You got to be really careful who signs what. Okay? If you got any agreements that you both agree to, they split those up. They can split those up heavy. Here's changes in the law. Oh, it's pretty long. Laws of other states. Okay? Then we jump over to the agreement. Disclosures, legal representation. You have to have 2 separate attorneys. You have to have witnesses. It's pretty intense, man. And there's no secrets, by the way. People will try to say, oh, I want this under wraps. I want it under privacy. There's no privacy. No, once it's out, it's called disclosure. Transparency. You got to be, and it's always about the money. It's always about the money. Other rights. Who's got what rights? Allocation of property. Okay. Property, non-marital property, marital property, primary residence, income tax returns. I'm going to circle that one. 2.5. Income tax returns. Do not underestimate. In fact, I believe you need a tax advisor before you need an attorney, a divorce family law attorney. Seriously. You got to know your numbers. And that influences everything. Okay? So a tax advisor is more important than a divorce attorney, in my eyes. Okay? Rights of property, rights during marriage, rights upon death. And is any of this shared with your family if your second time around? No. You try to keep everything secret. You try to keep everything, private to yourselves. Okay? And who really talks about net worth? You assume that, somebody's got money. And that influences second marriage for sure, because once you've been through one, it's painful. And they're split. It could take years. Not 1 year, not 2 years, and it takes months. And you're really... There's a term called bifurcate. Look that one up too. That's what happened in my second marriage, where you divorce. A bifurcate is a Latin word, and it means split in two. So in my situation, my second attorney suggested, not my first attorney, which we could talk about that later in another video. Bifurcate basically means split in two. And this is what their celebrities do and so on, because they want to get divorced ASAP, because it could go on for years when it comes down to temporary relief and all these sophisticated legal terms that mean a lot. And this is all before you go to trial, all before it, because that's one place you don't want to go. That's what a prenup is all about. That's what it's supposed to prevent. Is you're supposed to set, here's our agreement, here's our contract, we both agree. No, it doesn't work that way. So I want you to realize bifurcate is where you can get divorced and become a single person, and then the assets can be discussed later on and hopefully agreed upon. And in my case, in my second marriage, I was fortunate that I had a smart guy, attorney, that had tax background, bankruptcy background, so he knew numbers. He knew how to break down things in numbers, where her attorney and my first attorney had no clue of finance. And we'll talk about that engagement letter some other time. Okay? I wanted to say first in this video that a prenup is very important, and I'll get to that near the end here. Why is that important? So in other words, like I mentioned, on my videos, you listen, you learn, and basically you decide to protect yourself or you don't protect yourself. That's your decision. Okay? So going back to the prenup, rights upon dissolution or separation. Okay? It's just 3 clauses. Oh, 3.4, debts. Neither party shall be responsible. Oh, really? Okay. Consents to transfers. Okay? Each party agrees that upon the request of the other party or heirs or legal representations, assigns, or he or she will release the rights. There's also that discussion. By law, you need to sign. You agree to it. This is all pretty important shit. Community property, release of rights, consent to will, consent to gift splitting, to section blah, blah, blah of the Internal Revenue. See, your partner is the government, the IRS, Uncle Sam. Back in 2001, there was reasons to have tax exempt. You can expense your alimony. My understanding of federal law is that's not happening anymore in 2019 and beyond. Consent to gift splitting. Calendar year, it's between the husband and the wife. Construction of agreement, and this is all done. There's also a timeline because they're going to contest it. They could. They say you're safe at 30 to 60 days before you get married, before you sign off to do at the state. Okay? And make sure you have separate, your attorney should be able to tell you separate attorneys, separate witnesses, you're basically arm's length. Okay? Very important. And don't forget, this is my first time, so I didn't know all the rules, and I'll tell you why. Construction of agreement, the parties agree. The parties agree. The parties agree. Effective date. Okay? No waiver. Obligations to children. Bequests and gifts. Minnesota law controls. That's the deal. Not the church, not you. The state and the Fed will get involved. Change of residence. Steps to be taken. Then there's Minnesota law controls. If divorce is contemplated, there's also another section. Then there's your name as a gentleman or a female. Then there's witnesses, it's dated, and so on. State of Minnesota signs. There's a notary involved. Then there's the attorney certification, because the attorneys can be sued if they don't do it right. That's another story. And the attorneys are separate, of course. And the other big thing that you have to understand is you don't pay for his or hers attorney fees. You pay your own. It's very important because they'll look it up. If you're going through a divorce, they'll say, who paid what? Okay? All right. Then there's the Exhibit A of statement of assets, statement of liability, statement of income. There's net worth statement usually. Then they have personal property, blah, blah, blah. Okay? This is at the time. Then there's Exhibit B. That's your future spouse, same situation, statement of income, and so on. And then there's net worth statements. And what I discovered when I reviewed this is she was about 10% of my net worth, 10%. And that was okay. She had her own income. It took about 4 months to get it in front of her, okay, to decide. And assets, furniture, liabilities, even if there's a potential heir, if you're heir to a trust or something like that, that's part of the assets, part of the discussion. So there it is. Okay? It was never signed. Never signed, never married, and thank God. Thank God that this was never signed. I didn't have to go through this. It was waste. We broke up 2 years later. 2 years later, we broke up. We had an engagement party and all this other stuff. I'm ashamed to say, because my parents went, and they were all happy for me because I was single for so long. Let me see here, at least 15 years. And it's a sad deal. And did I learn my lesson? Are you going to learn your lesson? So I'm basically saying this is all about, and you know what I did? I planned the prenup to protect myself before we even talked about a wedding planner, because a wedding planner wasn't important to me. She went through a formal wedding. I went through a wedding back in the 70s. To me, I wasn't big on weddings. Okay? So it was just a kind of family stuff. But in the meantime, this would have killed me, because now I don't believe in prenups, because I went through it. And as I mentioned before, this was not signed. Thank God it wasn't signed. Okay? So we could walk away. That's another thing. Be strong enough to walk away. And I will tell you this. It had a lot to do with the parents. The parents didn't like me. They had a child. The grandparents had the child with my ex-girlfriend or fiancé, but they didn't like me. I was 11 years older than her. I was established. She wasn't. She still had battles going on with her ex, and that's what taught me is don't date people that have a lot of drama and baggage from the past. And I went to a therapist and talked to a therapist, and I was in my 40s, and she even said to me, Rock, do you really want to take on another child? Young child, she was like 2 or something like that. Nah, I'm in love. So this is part of what I call the 5 pillars of understanding family. And these 5 pillars I'm going to be talking about as I call this been there wisdom. That's my sessions. I've been there wisdoms. 5 pillars of love to litigation. Yeah. Eventually it's going to come. divorce or death, either way. And this is all part of the process. And if it's not a prenup, it's an estate plan. Okay? It's got to be broken up because people are going to be wondering where those assets are going at your death. If you're going through divorce, it's supposed to be all in writing, but it doesn't work that way. Even though the attorneys say, oh, it's going to work. No, you get in the system, and is it really, you really want to go to the judge and make a decision on your life? No. This is, it might be a 50-50 deal, if that. If you get more than 50% on either way, good for you. Here's the other thing that I've mentioned before. Know the laws of your state, because you might get in a situation where the sooner you divorce, the better. Okay? Don't wait like me, 12 years, to think about it and be unhappy. No. I was raised with parents that were married 74 years until my mother passed away. My father's still alive. He's almost 100. Can you imagine what one of 11, I'm one of 11, we're all alive? My dad must think we're crazy, his kids. How many of us are divorced? More than me, okay? Got generations of divorces in families. But the traditional people from back in, my parents, my grandparents, their motto was stick and stay. Stick and stay is bound to pay. Not anymore, because you only live one life. And people do change, and they're influenced by their past, their history, what I call their foundation, their family foundation. And as I mentioned, this engagement was broke, no doubt in my mind, by the parents, her side. My parents didn't give a shit. They just went, rock, be happy, because they've seen it so many times, divorce and that. They just wanted me to work because I was divorced, and I had 3 kids, and I had a business. So I was, in a way, a target. I had some assets, I had passion, I had a purpose, and so on. So I just wanted to more or less educate you on these pillars. This is the first pillar, which is called foundation. And before you say, I do your homework, protect yourself, protect your family. And if they object to a prenup, either party, because I know somebody that did object on the male side, and I think be prepared to walk away. As I mentioned before, it's only so much time that love fades, but the bills don't fade. You still get bills. So it hurts, I know, but it's raw. It's me. I've been there. As I mentioned before, I've been there, done that. So I'm just passing on wisdom. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a therapist, but I've hired them all. Attorneys, estate attorneys, prenups, therapists, done it all. Cost me a lot of money, but you know what? I can laugh about it now. Because now I'm, what should I say, joyful. I'm trying to. But this is my niche. This is what I found. I've been in business for 50 years, always doing strategy, doing somebody else's strategy. And not everybody can implement or execute. They're not strong enough, or they don't stick to it. They're not committed. And that's what happens in marriage. The top 3, what are they? It's finance. Number 2 is infidelity. And number 3 is commitment. I'm done with this, is what people say to themselves. My first marriage, she said, I'm done with this. And guess what? The finance was me. Infidelity, I'm not going there. Second marriage, might be a mix of all 3. But it was my side to say, I'm done with this. I couldn't afford it anymore. but there was no infidelity. And that's why I have no problem with my Lord. And I'm not the king. I'm just saying, hey, I was at the time 66 years old. I don't need this shit. I got another, 10 years? Why be unhappy? And let's face it, everybody went through COVID, and they call it, we're going to pivot. Well, guess what? Today you have to adapt to be single. You have to adapt to be divorced. You have to adapt to lose a job. You have to adapt to have a health problem. You have to adapt. I have to adapt. Okay, that's life. That's life. So anyway, I'm Rock, your divorce strategist, and I always try to bring joy. So I hope this helps. If it does help, share it with somebody. Give me a comment. Ask me a question. If it's a downer, hit the down. It's okay. But I'm still talking about it. But I hope while you were listening, learning, you're actually saving. You're saving. My solution or my recommendation is cut a deal up front before you get attorneys involved. Get it notarized. File it. It's done. And that's for love. Just in case you prepare for litigation. But if they don't even do that with no assets, that's telling you a lot. Because you're not in your mastery position yet in the first marriage. First marriage, 50% risk. More than that, 70 to 80%. So, anyway, always bring joy. I'll see you again. God bless.